Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zai, and we are doing this live session from NewStars Migrations Canberra's office. We have just received this morning the ACT critical occupation list. I'm talking with Victor. He is a renowned migration agent based in Canberra, and he is also our branch manager. Victor, I've got a lot of questions.
Yep.
And I have selected few of them. 15 questions to ask you. They are related to just published ACT critical list.
No problem. So this afternoon we're going to spend about 30 minutes time and to answer all the questions. Some of them we gathered from the Facebook. Some of them I think it's are very good questions to lead into the informations just published by the state government. In addition to that, I will try to give you the best ideas about what has been changed and what kind of impacts for those potential applicants, for those who are still on the occupation list, and for those who has been removed. So let's get started.
Okay, so I will start from question number 1. So the question number 1 is the list valid for the whole year of 2021?
First of all, this is the idea, this is the time that I will give you a little background about the review of the current occupation list. We all know the current occupation list was just published last night, and the previous one was actually published on the August. That's the idea of the critical occupation list. Before that, there was the idea of open and closed occupation, and the reason why they want to do this adjustment this time because before Christmas, ACT government received the full allocation from the state government, and apparently the allocation number it's better than what the state government expected. So that means they have expectation, which is not going to be very great. We all know this is a very tough year of secure migration, but eventually the state government received pretty much the same allocation. We're talking about full financial year from the department. So they think they have more places to offer. That's why we see the occupation list to get reviewed. So they want to add, generally speaking, there are more occupation added into the occupation list. They want to give more people opportunities. That's the first thing. Second, if it's going to be valid for 2021, the answer is probably not. On the current ACT guideline, that's the idea is occupation list will be reviewed every four months. It doesn't mean every 4 months the occupation list will definitely get reviewed and changed, but they have the rights. So the government reserves the right to do it. So my idea is this occupation probably will last till the end of this financial year. That's the end of June.
So maybe June.
Maybe June, but we'll see. Maybe and at the beginning of July, maybe there are some occupation will be reviewed again. But it definitely we're not saying all those occupations now are safe or will stay still throughout the year. But I think what you could expect, most occupation probably will last till the end of this financial year.
Okay, so we can still expect to see some changes after 4 months.
This is no state governments now, not just ACT government. None of the state government is saying this is the occupation our state government published, and this is the occupation we're going to use for the whole year. A lot of state government don't give you the idea saying this is occupations, you should expect it unchanged in the coming financial year. ACT government now, remember that ACT government now saying the occupation list will be reviewed every 4 months. So that's an idea. They do have the reserve the right to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean they will do it every time.
Okay. So I will jump into another question. The question is there are some occupations that they included and some excluded. So briefly, what are they? Currently they are 111 occupation. Currently 111 occupation list. I try to just bring another microphone. I think the people on the Facebook now saying the voice is not great enough. So we're going to give it a try. But previously there were 84 occupation. So generally speaking, there's about 30 occupation more in general. But it doesn't. There are some occupations was newly added to the occupation list, and there are some occupation was removed last night. So I was just going to focus on of the major ones. In terms of the lowest occupation which is newly added to the occupation list, I think there's a couple ones. First of all those trade skill occupations, saying chef, All those hairdressers, low skill occupation generally assessed by TI. Trading, we normally call them trade occupations, has been added back to the occupation list. That's something very good for those people, particularly, for example, chef. I got a lot of inquiry from this morning. Those people working the chef said, you pretty simply saying you got a chance to apply now. So that's one of the group. And there's another occupation. It's pretty interesting. That is the one we call translator. The reason why is previously there are a lot of people. If I think some of you who are watching the video now might have the piece of certificates. NATI translation certificates, and you should have the skill assessment as a translator. So that means a lot of people are going to have these certificates and eligible to apply as a translator. Now it's back on this. Let's just give you options to apply as a translator. We have to take the other elements into consideration. There's quite a few occupations back on the list. But I think the ones that attract my attention is those trade occupations, and the one just mentioned about translator. For those which is removed from occupation, there's quite a few actually. For example, marketing specialist, advertising specialist, public relationship officer was not on the list. Solicitor is not on the list now. Financial investment advisor is not on the list now, these are the ones I think might affect some of the potential applicant. In terms of those occupation which were just removed, I will give you some idea. That's my understanding about. For example, this morning I just take a client whose skill assessment is a solicitor, and she was asking the kind of idea, the question we just mentioned about, will this remain the same in 2022? My understanding is all those occupations, regardless they are newly added to occupation or just removed from occupation, we have to look at the actual job market, labor market. If the job market supports this occupation, eventually they will back on the list. For example, solicitor. We know Canberra have a lot of law firms, and this is the capital city. There are a lot of organizations will need law professionals. Eventually, maybe to a certain point, maybe 4 months later, maybe 8 months later, maybe this occupation will be back on the list. The reason why this occupation has been removed from the list may be just because there are enough applicants in the past 6 months' time. So eventually, look at the how people were asking how safe is my occupation on the list. I think eventually you have to look at the job market. State governments make decisions most of the time basing on economic benefits, basing on job research marketing. Okay, cool. So there's just a few ones to mention.
Okay. So next question. You included all the questions here already. So is there any major changes in the ACT nomination guideline, such as employment and other eligibility criteria?
Generally speaking, in terms of the eligibilities, there was no major change. That means, for example, if you want to apply for 491 visa, you still have to stay in Canberra for at least 3 months' time. You still need to maintain 3 months employment continuous, 20 hours per week. If you want to apply for 190, there will be still 6 months residency requirement, 6 months employment requirement full time. These are the major requirements. Even the English requirement for most of occupations remain the same. So this time, the change of this time, mainly focusing on the occupation is in terms about the guideline. My idea is not just this time. In the coming, maybe months or years to come, the guideline should remain generally the same, because this particular metric system runs pretty well. So then there was no major change to the guideline, but there are a few adjustment, or there are some ideas been mentioned by the state government this time and make it more clear. First of all, they mentioned about one ACT nomination places only. That means anybody who apply through a metric system or apply through the ACT nomination programs will be only nominated once. Saying somebody, for example, if I apply to the ACT government, and eventually I get 491 nomination. We're not talking about matrix invitation, we're talking about nomination.
Yep.
If you get 491 nomination, let's simply stop your chance to apply to get 190 nomination again. This is just an idea to save the places, make the best use of the very valuable places, nomination places for the within the whole program. Bear in mind, we're talking about nomination. We're not talking about invitation. We're not talking about matrix invitation. You might get matrix invitation a couple times, but eventually, if you take one of the invitation and go ahead and eventually got approval in the nomination stage, that means your EOI gets confirmed. And that just gives you a chance to apply certain visa, either 190 or 491, and you don't have another chance to get nomination again. I think what will happen in reality is those people, if you be qualified for 491 and you decide to go for 491 first, because we know the differences in 3 months and 6 months time, so you'll hit 491 criteria easier than 190. If that's the case, you have to think about if you want to take 491 or maybe wait for another 3 months time to go for 190.
Yeah, so that means they are trying to refine their system.
They're trying to refine the system. I think because Canberra still, even this financial year and like the previous financial year, it's small states in terms of the allocation numbers. We don't have a lot of places to offer. Every place is important for individual applicants. So for those people who want to get 2 nominations, I think it's waste of the number, generally speaking. So this is a very good idea. So for any people who, because it's pretty interesting, 491, 190, you probably can use the same criteria or use the same employment. The only difference is about timing. Previously, we heard from a lot of clients saying, I want to go 190, but I'm concerned about the potential change might happen during this 6 months time. So I want to take 491 as a plan, and then use this plan and leading me to the 190 plan eventually. But this is probably not the idea now. You have to pick one of them to complete your nomination.
All right. So the other question is, we are expecting an invitation round anytime soon. That is on 15th January or before?
Today's 12th. Yesterday, this morning actually, the guideline get published. I think the first invitation will come in tomorrow or maybe the day after.
Are they going to refer the previous list or this list for this invitation round?
They will be using the current occupation list. So this current list, it's valid now. The previous occupation list is not valid now.
Okay.
So at this stage, for example, if somebody who already applied within the matrix system as a marketing specialist, which is the one of the occupation previously, you're not getting invited this time.
Okay, that's my another question. That's my another question. What happens to those matrix applications?
You don't get a chance.
The way made one occupations way in the
so even in the future,
occupation
list come into effect right on the time they get published. Okay, there was no grandfathering period anymore in terms of the occupation. When the state government issue invitation, your occupation needs to be on the occupation list. So for those people whose occupation just got removed and you apply a matrix before that, you will not get invitation this round and the coming rounds until your occupation is back on the list.
Okay. That's very clear. And the other question is, as there are still 552 places for 491 and 452 places for 190 to be filled, do you think invitation points will drop to somewhere around 60, 65 for any occupation?
First of all, when we talk about points, we have to talk about different categories, different occupation category. Well, I'm probably going to talk about the general pictures first. We all know if we want to separate the invitation or Canberra nomination this financial year, you can separate it into stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1, it's the time between August till November. So that's the time before Christmas. That's the time state government only receive a temporary, or we say entrance allocation from the state government. At that time, a state government only have 45 places for 491 to offer, and 250 places for 190 to offer. Altogether, it's less than 300. Now, the stage 2 is from now till the end of June, ACT government going to have 552 for 491. So if you have I just meant, remember the number. Previously, we only have 45 places for 491, but now in the coming less than 6 months time, they will have 552 places. It's 10 times more than the previous internal programs. First of all, my conclusion is, generally speaking, for 491 categories, if you can go online to look the points within your particular group. For example, accountants, even IT professionals. If you can go back to see the points with your category in the past couple rounds, the points will drop significantly simply because we're talking about 10 times places to offer, and they will let less than 6 months to go and to use all those places. That's my conclusion about 491. The points will definitely drop. In terms of 190, still we got 450 places to offer. So generally speaking, most of occupation, if you're applying as a 491 candidates, I think the points will drop quickly. And for 190, it will go steady and maybe drop a little bit, because I don't see the dramatic or sudden increase of the applicants in the coming 6 months time. A couple of reasons. First of all, ACT guideline, it's clear, and ACT guideline set out the preconditions for the potential applicants. It doesn't go like if you move to Sydney, move from Sydney next week, you can apply. You have to stay 3 months or 6 months. You don't come into the pool. You don't join into the metro pool immediately. That's the first reason. Second, we all know this is a year of the special time. A lot of people still not in Australia. Even in Australia, we see sometimes border closed between states, so you don't see a lot of people moving to Canberra overnight. So you don't see the sudden increase of the applicants. So there are not sudden increase of the applicant, but we can tell there are more places to offer. The points will drop.
So generally speaking, we can expect some drop.
But in terms of the occupation, we have to see which occupation. For example, accountant going to be still very a competitive group, because a lot of people are accountants, but within some not so competitive groups, points will definitely drop.
So I get very closely related question to this. This is a specific question. Like, my occupation is an accountant. And I have 90 points. Is that good enough for 190?
I think for 190, first of all, accountant, it's a group still on the list, and the places to offer is still less than 10 every month. And when we talk about less than 10, you have to think less than 10 means altogether there will be probably 5 places for 491 candidates and 5 places for 190 candidates. But accountant major student generally accounts for 30-40% of the applicants overall. So the competition will be very high. So even this time they have a lot of places to offer, but they still put a very strict cap for accountant student. I think the points will remain pretty much the same for 190, like the previous couple metric rounds. So that's just my personal opinion. I think the points for 190 will be somewhere around 100 for the coming couple rounds, but for 491 points probably will drop.
Okay. So, do you have any clue when they may open Canberra Matrix for overseas applicants?
We have to see the situation going with the COVID-19. When the border opens, maybe that's the time we can talk about it. But even when the border reopens, some of the state government probably will still focusing on the onshore applicants and onshore students, rather than taking international applicants.
So maybe it's too early to talk about.
I think I wouldn't see. Personally, I don't see that happening. Before 2022.
Okay, so I got another question. Looking into the ACT critical list and other previous lists, can we say any particular occupation is safe in terms of state nomination in coming years?
I think this is something you can't give this kind of answer from the state government saying this is safe. They don't put tags on occupation saying this is safe. Okay, this is going to stay forever.
Talking about trends.
We can talk about trends. You can even do the comparison between each occupation list. This is the one. and that's the one previously. So there's a version 2 of second versions of critical list, and there was version 1 of the critical list. You can even compare to the open and closed occupation previously. You can tell some information from the comparison. For example, a lot of nursing, teaching, and any kind of these are very, very safe occupations. Childcare, aged care, those are very safe occupations. Generally speaking, because again, these occupations are strongly backed by the labor market. Easily, if you go online, you'll be able easily to find employment needs or job positions calling for aged care professionals. So these occupations will remain on the list. And also, for example, there are reasons why some occupations are generally stronger in terms of the ideas of safe in the occupation. For example, this time we still see a significant allocation, portions for IT professionals. A lot of places for IT. The idea is this is a COVID period of time, so they are increasing demanding for IT professionals because of distance operations. A lot of people starting to work from home. These kind of ideas, passing through across a lot of industries. So, as the government try to emphasize on the idea that is, we need a lot of IT professionals. So, IT this year still got a lot of places, and we still see, for example, civil engineering. Civil engineering still on the list. Quantity surveyors still on the list. These and instructors, transport are on the list. These are highly related to the infrastructure constructions. But if you live in Canberra, we all live in Canberra. We can tell there are a lot of apartments going on. There are a lot of construction going on the corners, and we all know the railway stage 2 is going to be coming very soon. So these are all backed by the actual job markets. So these are the ideas. These are occupations pretty safe. Accountant, again, people are asking about accountant. I think accountant it's a very complicated occupation, and there are a lot of elements, factors to think about it. But even before this occupation has been published, I have quite a few clients asking about the chance accountant get removed. My response is back in August 2020. That's a time none of the state governments, clearly states accountant is one of the occupation on our state government. HDC government still managed to do so. Of course, they put in cap on that. I think they try to consider local needs, even consider the special places, special special functions in terms of, if I'm using the right word, still function of accountant major. If you're taking the international education sectors into consideration. So I think this occupation will be on the list for a certain period of time, but there will be always cap on accountant major, because it's definitely not in line with the ideas of critical, as the Department of Home Affairs suggests. And also the labor market about accountant is not very optimistic in Canberra, generally speaking. We're talking about 1,000 accountant graduates, maybe 100 accountant positions. So it was not strongly backed by the labor markets. That's why those occupations will be strictly kept.
Okay. So the other question is, what is the minimum wage per hour for any occupation? This is kind of
for this question is for example, we have to talk about
occupation.
First of all, not just occupation, like there's several places when you try to talk about the minimum wage. For example, if you just finding any kind of employment, try to meet the eligibilities to apply for ICT nomination, then what you have to do is just meet the first of all the national minimum wage. Second is try to compare your occupation to the fair work. You have to be above the industrial award. For example, if somebody working in a restaurant, there will be national minimum wage. You have to be above that. And second, for example, you're working in a restaurant and you are a waiter or waitress, you have to meet the criteria as the restaurant, even sometimes the fast food
industrial award suggests. So this is the idea. You have to be
Yeah.
legal and meet the minimum wage if it's just for the criteria.
Okay.
But for the point purpose,
Yeah.
if you're trying to add some points, now the state government say it need to be 20, minimum is $26.
Yeah.
So that's for if you want to add some points
Yeah.
within the metric system, there will be minimum wage of 26. But if just for the criteria, you just have to meet the fair work requirement. Yeah.
Okay, so people get 5 points after they work 6 months. So any kind of work, but for this one,
For this one, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
For the length of employment, that's fine. I will be more specific if for the type of employment.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get any points from the type of employment,
Yeah.
then the requirement is minimum 26.
Okay.
But if you try to get the length of employment,
Yeah.
it doesn't say it's 26. It's you just have to refer to the minimum requirements
Okay.
of your particular occupation.
Okay, that's very clear now. And I will go to some very specific questions.
Yep.
I have been living in Canberra since 2014 and working as a cook, previously in 457 visa and now in 482 visa. What would be my next step to apply permanent residency?
First of all, because you are employer sponsor visa, that means your employment is definitely continuous.
Mhm.
So you definitely hit the employment criteria. That's for sure. Second is your English requirement. You still need to hit the English requirement.
Mhm.
But currently there's another requirement now is if you are applying ACT metric system as a 482 or 457 visa, your metric point need to be above 60.
Yeah.
So your metrics points overall need to be above 60. Then you can submit the metrics applications. I would suggest if anybody who now has sponsorship, during the process of sponsorship, holding a 457 visa or 482 visa and your skill assessment, you need to have the skill assessment.
Mhm.
Your skill assessment shift, it's very good chance for you to get your 190 nomination eventually because there won't be so many people to compete with you as a chef. And the whole process for 190 is definitely faster. I know there are alternative pathways for some people. Even go on the path of state employer sponsor. Eventually, you might be able to change your current 482 visa into a permanent visa, but it would usually take years, 2 years or 3. For the 190, it's faster, and it's a state nominated string, state native program. So yeah, if you are those kind of people who work in a restaurant now as a chef and you have a skill assessment, go ahead. This is definitely a very good chance for you because we don't know what's going to happen after 5-6 months of time. Maybe it will be removed from this again, and you have to wait for another 6, even 1 year of time. So take your chance.
Okay, so I got another question. Is it true that if I work in any occupation listed on ACT occupation list, I will be awarded 10 points even though it's not my nominated occupation?
It could happen basing on you could prove you have relevant qualification. I will give you an example. Somebody apply as for example, somebody apply, which means somebody's nominated occupation is accountant. And he or she is working now as a chef, if that's the case. And chef now is on the occupation. You can add 10 points, but the condition is you need to show the state governments you have relevant qualification.
So probably
You're going to have showing, you have cookery, certificates.
certification.
If that's the case. So there were conditions. The condition is you need to have a relevant qualification.
Do they actually need to have the skill assessment for the other occupation as well? Or?
There was no compulsory requirement about skill assessment. No.
Okay, so they can back up their claim by probably some payslip and job description and their.
Yep.
How it works?
Yes.
Okay. So the other question is, I studied, and this is not actually related to this thing, but I would like to ask you because this is very close to the question, the issue. I studied and graduated from University of New England, Armidale. However, I worked in Sydney during my spare times. Let's say his or her study was 2 days a week, and she used to work in Sydney for rest of the days. And after graduation, I worked and spare times. And after graduation, I moved to Canberra. Am I eligible for additional year of temporary residence?
First of all, we had to be clear about the time. If somebody graduates from a regional area, which is the case, graduates stay in a regional area during the time of study, but then after the graduation, somebody moved to a non-regional area, stay for a certain period of time. Generally speaking, you lose your eligibilities of the additional 1 year of the TR requirement. So there are particular detailed requirements about who are qualified for additional 1 year, who are not. I think we post a little bit information article about this on Facebook last week, but I'm gonna post a link down this video again for your reference. But generally speaking, the additional 1 year requirements for those people who study in regional area and stay in regional area, then you'll be qualifying for the additional.
They studied in Armidale, and after finishing the study, they came here in Canberra. It is still that.
If it's Canberra, that's fine. But if they move to, because what you say Sydney, because if somebody go to Sydney and stay Sydney Sydney is not regional area.
Now during their studies.
During the studies, we have to see the evidence. So we're going to see the evidence. The reason why for this additional year requirement, we're starting to take some clients applying for additional 1 year. We will gather their bank statement to show the department those people are remained and studied in regional area. So if I see a lot of living evidence in Sydney, I will question your 2 years or either 1 year, 2 years regional residency record. So this kind of special if somebody who is in Sydney, because for this particular question, I don't have the information about the frequency. If somebody just go for Sydney for 1 day, 2 days a week in the weekend, probably fine. But if somebody stay in Sydney most of the time but studying in regional area, you're gonna have some problem in terms of claiming for the regional points or claiming for the regional study residency. But in terms of detailed questions, we're happy to give you some suggestion later on.
Okay. So I got probably the last question. I've done my Bachelor's of Statistics. Is there any chance for permanent residency? State nomination.
State statistics doesn't lead to
permanent residency.
Well, we have to talk about which occupation we're talking about. I think first step it
should be mathematics.
If it's currently is not on the list, then and for those skill assessment, 1 year requirements, 1 year working experience, it's required. So you had to worry about this first. For those people who don't have skill assessment, particularly those people need 1 year of working experience to hit their skill assessment. I think what you're going to do, you have to plan for long term. For example, often we get inquiry from other state and inquiries. Those people who are IT graduates, newly IT graduates, they need either professional year or 1 year relevant employment to get the IT skill assessment. Then you have to plan for long term because you don't meet the criteria. Within this year before you get a skill assessment. Okay, so you have to plan two things at the same time: skill assessment and state nomination at the same time.
I think that's the end of the questions.
Sure.
And thank you for being here, Victor. Being very clear.
No problems. But I'm just gonna give some a few suggestions to the potential applicants who are watching our video. Generally speaking, I keep on mentioning this to potential applicants, not just in Canberra, but in other who are currently in other states as well. What you're going to do is, if you're already in Canberra, good for you. Try to meet your criteria. Try to increase your point. Canberra metric now is a very clear system. It's very clear. The system is very clear. It's well run, very clear. And generally speaking, it is stable. It is stable within the scope. A lot of criteria doesn't get changed. The state government don't come up with ideas. This is today we are gonna assess the case in this way. Tomorrow is this way. They change some criteria or change the expressions of some particular sentences to make it more clear, to make it more reasonable. So it's good for the potential applicants. In the meantime, for some people, if you are in a state now, for example, in Sydney now, try to look at the policy in your own city, in your own state, to see if it's a better option. For example, I get inquiry, I'm a civil engineer.
Yeah.
Do I have a better chance in New South Wales? Look at the guidelines of New South Wales government's website. If you think a better chance, you can give it a try. Otherwise, now the information, the message sending out is very clear. Canberra, guideline, Canberra occupation list, civil is on the list, but you have to calculate your points. And the points, it's a different situation for everyone. It's a bit different. But generally speaking, if your occupation is on the list, good for you. If your occupation not on this now, hopefully in the coming 4 months, even 6 months or 8 months time, some occupation will be reviewed again. Some occupation will be added back to the list, as long as those occupation, generally speaking, in demand in the labor market, in the job market in Canberra, you got a chance to be back on this. But for some occupations, obviously, there are not a lot of job places in Canberra. There are too many applicants in Canberra within particular groups. You probably won't expect it gets better. For example, accountant, you don't expecting the points will drop down to 70 points. It's impossible. It will remain very high. Then that means only a few people can get nomination eventually. This is just how the system runs. Canberra is small places, and small places and very small little places to offer. But generally speaking, it's good news. Today, the information, the message sending out is good news. Most people, there are more options within the occupation list, and the other allocation left within this financial year is still reasonable. So take your chance. If you have more detailed questions, you can always book a consultation through our Facebook page.
And one last question, if there is an option to apply for the Canberra Matrix themselves, why would they come to you? It's a migration agent or particularly the company.
If you are watching, if you're watching on Facebook now, that's a reason. Because if you are following on Facebook and you're watching now, you have the idea. We are the one keep on doing ACT nomination analysis and interpretations throughout the past 2-3 years, and as the biggest agent, generally speaking, and we're talking about basic in terms of the customer groups, we're probably one of the biggest agents in Canberra. We have a lot of database. And so that just give you an idea. We have a lot of experiences. You're happy to come to us to do a very short consultation first, to see if this is the right place for you. I'm not guarantee everyone think this is the right agent for you, but in terms of finding the proper consultants, talk to them. I think that's my suggestion. Just get a chance to talk to us.
So this is the reason why you need to consult NewStars, and please keep following our Facebook page so that you will get benefited. We are conducting live sessions if something happens and that bothers you and the people who are waiting for the 190, 491 or for any other visas. We will do our sessions, and Victor is conducting so many, he is releasing so many videos related to the visa and other education, and other councillors they are also giving some videos on YouTube, and please keep following our videos and this will help you a lot. Thank you for being with us for this half an hour, and probably we hope this helps you a lot. And if you have some particular questions, you can always hop into our office, or you can book an appointment online. And good luck for your visa application. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck.
See ya.